Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Chakodash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us His truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like this out there, listening, learning, and or teaching the truth and sincerity. Shalom. Hey, shalom, Makyam. So today, I want to go into these insurrections that are coming. All right, the scriptures talks about insurrections. It talks about, people speaking up against the government, and we know that leads to insurrection as well. First it starts with talk, but then actions must follow. Okay, I got this article pulled up. It's from Futurism. It says AI zillionaires are starting to get scared as the public turns against them. Data centers have become a proxy for the hate towards AI and the concentration and accumulation of wealth it's creating. And this was written on June 29th. So today, Eastern time, 9:07 in the morning. All right. So basically going into how the elites are getting scared. And I thought, through the spirit, this is a great, article to bring out for this lesson because, I've made mention of this in the past few videos. You've got Elon Musk saying that AI is going to create so much wealth that everybody's going to have a penthouse if they want, basically telling people to trust the process, getting the people on their side. What did they recently say also? Okay, I made a video about that, where they were saying that here, let me see if I could pull it up here. Basically, how these elites were basically saying, so they made that remark in that article that I read, where it says the public will become very rich. Trump wants Americans to get a cut of AI profits, and some big tech CEOs are on board. Right, so you got the big tech CEOs, you got Trump, you got Elon Musk. They're all basically saying, hey, we're trying to share some wealth, trying to win the people over because they're scared, man. Same thing with that dude, what's his face? The guy from Amazon, Jeff Bezos, where he was talking about taxing the rich more or something along them lines. Basically they basically scared, man, to a point, but they're still gonna do their wickedness at the end of the day, because the Lord got them programmed to do that. Because that same guy was saying how we got to prioritize water for the AI data centers rather than for people. Right, so I'm not by any means saying that these people, these elites, having a change of heart. What I'm saying is they see that an insurrection is coming, okay, and they're basically scared. So just going back to this article on AI's, the one that says AI zillionaires are starting to get scared as the public turns against them. If we scroll to the bottom, it says, let's see here. It says at the bottom here, in the bottom two paragraphs, evidently fearful that AI backlash could spiral into some kind of socialist revolt, the billionaires offered a laundry list of ways the tech industry could placate the apparently witless public. These include donating billions of dollars to small towns and cities, extending an olive branch to artists, and creating unions, and ignoring the temptation to hire famous people to endorse AI. If you don't kiss the asses of the people, now this is a quote from Mark Cuban, if you don't kiss the asses of the people that go to work every day and are just trying to pay their bills, you will fall far, far short of the capacity you need to make your business work, Cuban wrote. All right, and he's just another devil. But the point being, okay, they getting scared, all right, and notice This guy's definition of kissing ass, okay, is just treating people right, showing you how these elites think, okay? But you can see how an insurrection happened. You can look up Bacon's Rebellion. I did a little bit of research on it, and basically, during the time of slavery, when the so-called African Americans, the tribe of Judah, was enslaved in that chattel slavery, you had white indentured servants, which is a much easier form of slavery. It wasn't even really slavery. It was more like you work a hard job for, to get out of debt. They sign a contract. It's basically get out of debt. You work for 7 years and then go free. Something along them lines. That's how Esau did it. I know in the scriptures is you work 6 years and go free. But, the point being that, they had these Edomites. You had the lower class whites. And then you had the enslaved Israelites, the Judites, so-called African Americans, right? And so they ultimately got together, right? These poor whites and the enslaved Judites around 1676 to 1677. There was that Bacon's Rebellion. So they came up against the elite, all right? And one of the ways that they solved it was that the elites started giving rights, more rights and power to the poor whites. And this was basically how they solved that insurrection, man, because what they did was divide and conquer. Okay, so they gave those poor whites the ability to vote again, and giving them land and privileges and things over the so-called blacks. That way they could feel some type of superiority, and that's how the middle class was created during that time. Okay, and so that quelled the rebellion, because basically what they did was they pinned the poor whites, who are now middle class, and the blacks against each other. Divide and conquer, okay, and then extending that olive branch, extending that money, it kind of quelled the anger of the poor Edomites. And so, it's just a vision of what we seeing now, man. Okay, this very same thing could happen, okay, where these elites, they start giving a little bit of more money to some of these Edomites, a little bit more resources, like they saying they're going to give Americans money. Now they may give Jake a little bit of money too, but these Edomites ultimately are going to have to feel some sort of superiority unless they want the poor rising up against the rich. Okay, so it may very well be something that happens in the near future, where they start giving away some more privilege to these Edomites. Okay, but nevertheless, I want to grab 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter, going into the 15th verse. Starting at verse 14, actually says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein." Right? Woe means destruction. "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hand." Right? And that's going to be them class wars. You may even have race wars and all type of wars, but class war is definitely part of that, man. Because we read verse 16, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." Right? So you're going to have some of these elites, or upper class Edomites that are going to get invaded by the lower class. Okay, they're going to get invaded. They're going to get put to death. Some of these politicians going to get put to death. All right, and people are gonna do whatever they gotta do to survive. And if they feel like you elites setting up all these data centers are a threat to people's survival because they losing their jobs, these bills are going up and up, the electric bill and water bills going up, then there's gonna be a shortage for water. All right, it feels like you elites are in the way of people's survival. So people are gonna think, well, it's either them or us. That's the way these people are gonna start to think. All right, that's when you're going to get martial law. That's when you're going to get a lot of draconian measures, man, because these devils want what? Order out of chaos. So it says in verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Yeah, it's going to be all hell breaking loose. All right, people killing each other for food. Why do you think they're invading the upper class at this point? The upper class, not just the upper class, but more specifically these high level people, man. Your elites, your CEOs, just like the puppets, man, the talking heads, politicians, right? That upper class. Not the elite international bankers, because they're safe and out of trouble until the Lord destroys them, because they have to be preserved to be the first slaves, a lot of them. Okay, but like it says here, verse 18, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread and for great tribulation. Right? There's going to be great tribulation, a lack of bread. People are going to break into each other's house and put each other to death for what's in their fridge. Okay? All hell breaking loose. Okay? And so, the point of this video is showing you, hey, we're close to the end, man. There's an insurrection that's coming. There's order out of chaos that's coming. And these elites are scared, a lot of them, man. So they're going to have to tread very carefully. And ultimately, this shows that they have but a short time, man. So they definitely getting ready to come down with more wrath. Okay, they just signed some bill for ICE to get more billions and billions of dollars to continue to persecute Northern Kingdom Jake. Okay. So it's only gonna get worse from here, man. And let's see what happens in July 4th, man. That's when America runs out of oil, and there's no ceasefire in sight. Iran is puffing at America, so shit's only gonna get tighter. The squeeze is only gonna get tighter, and these Babylonians are actually gonna have to grow up and nut up and smell the coffee and wake up that, hey, the world is not going back to normal. Shit is only going to get worse from here. Okay, and these people are going to finally start to realize who the real enemy is, man. But at the end of the day, it's too late, because a lot of you Jakes out here, the Lord has called and you have not answered. All right, and so you're going to have to learn the hard way, death by pain. Be preserved for the missiles, man, that are coming here. All right, unless you repent, you better repent now, man. These videos are coming out. These videos are coming out day in and day out, and so there's no reason to continue to be hard-headed, man. You see the writing on the wall. America's finished. All right? But yeah, man, them insurrections are coming, man. But with that, I'm going to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praise to Yahweh. Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem HaKadosh, double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us the truth. Sincere shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom wa, abba, shalom.